This week we read Acharey Mos Kedoshim. Acharey Mos Kedoshim, a double header. What's amazing is that Acharey Mos Kedoshim is always read, Connie, the week of Yom Ha'atzmaut. Yiddish, Abraham? Why is Acharey Mos Kedoshim always read the week of Yom Ha'atzmaut? Well, let's think. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Zechat Tzaddik Avracha, was asked, which is the best grave, which tzaddik should you go to be mispalel? You want to be mispalel by a tzaddik? Who is the greatest tzaddik you should be mispalel? Which cave? You know what he said?
Holocaust survivor.
He said, go to Har Herzl. And any soldier that gave his life for Am Yisrael, there's no greater tzaddik than him. And he pointed to this Parshat, Yosef. Acharey Mot Kedoshim. Once a Jew dies for Kiddush Hashem, defending the land of Israel and the people of Israel, he is called a Kadosh. There's no higher Kadosh, as Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said, than a Chayal who gave his life to defend the nation of Israel and the people of Israel. That's the greatest tzaddik to go daven at his grave, and therefore Acharey Mos Kedoshim always falls the week of Yom HaZikaron. We remember the soldiers, and then once they gave their lives for Am Yisrael, they're automatically called a Kadosh. So the Torah begins, Acharey Mos, the two children of Aaron died when they got too close to God. Avram, how does that mean? We got too close to God. They died, they got too close to God. Strange verse. Aaron's two sons died, they became too close to God. That's what the text says, Rabbi Yosef. How do you get too close to God? They were so, Chazal say, they were so heavenly minded, they were no earthly good. Should I repeat that? They were so heavenly minded, they were no earthly good. They refused to get married. Get married, have children. It's a waste of time. Too much gashmius. That's not the Jewish way. No, our task is Kimei Hashemayim al Oretz.
Did he kill for that?
1 minute. Be careful what you pray for, because you just might get it. They didn't want to live in this world anymore. That there's too much gashmis in this world. We want to go back to heaven. Remember that song, Earth Angel?
No.
I'm dating myself.
No.
Earth Angel. We are supposed to be an earth angel, not a heavenly angel. God has plenty of angels in heaven. We're supposed to be earthlings to bring Kedusha to the physical world. The most mundane act, the sex act, is called Kiddushin. It's called Kiddushin. They didn't understand that. We have to be an earth angel. We sang the Shema, Kimei Hashemayim al Oretz. We sang the Shema. Zisel, what does it mean, Kimei Hashemayim al Oretz? To bring the days of heaven on the earth. Our task is to bring heaven down to earth. To sanctify all aspects of life. Even the secular and the mundane. And therefore the first mitzvah in the Torah is what? To get married and have babies. What does a husband say to the wife? Harei at mukudeshes li. You are bringing Kedusha to me. Because you're being my wife and we're going to have relations, we are sanctifying the sex act. We're bringing down a godly soul to the world. That's the tafkid of a Jew. But these guys, they got too close to Hashem. God doesn't want heavenly angels. He wants earth angels. Powerful message. And then the Torah goes on and speaks about on Yom Kippur, you're supposed to bring 2 goats. 1 goat LaShem and 1 goat LaZazel. What is that all about? 2 goats. 1 LaShem and 1 LaZazel. One gets sacrificed on Mizbeach and the other one gets pushed over a cliff. And both goats have to be the exact same size, the same weight, and the same color. The Soyer Lashem represents what? Godliness. The Soyer Lazazel represents what? Satan, the Yetzer Hara. Both goats die. Depends how you want to live your life. Do you want to live your life Lashem, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, or God forbid, Lazazel?
I thought one goat lives.
No. one gets pushed over the cliff, so long, so the other one gets sacrificed on the altar. So the Azazel represents life. You can dedicate your life to Hashem, or God forbid, Yetzer Hara. And they're both identical. The same internet. You can go to RabbiSprecher.com or to the Shmutz sites. The same bricks can build a yeshiva or a hospital, or the same bricks can build a crematorium at Auschwitz. Depends how we use the technology. Lashem or Lazazel. Get a life or waste a life. We have to decide how to choose life. How to live our lives. To Hashem or Chas v'Sholom the other way. Eitz Hadas Tov Hara. What does that mean, Chava? Eitz Hadas Tov Hara. The tree of knowledge.
Knowledge of good and evil.
We decide how to use knowledge. Tov, Lashem, or Chas v'Sholom Ra, Lazazel. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Look at today. The worst evil is called what? Good. Our peace partners. They define the worst evil as good. So we have to be very careful not to mix up Lazazel, Chas v'Sholom, with what? With HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then the Torah goes on and speaks about Yom HaKippurim. On the day of Yom Kippur, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make atonement for you to purify you. Seems to be redundant, Chava. If God atones for us, what does purity add to atonement? On this day will atonement be made for you to purify you. How do they differ? How does atonement differ from purity? Yom Kippur is called the Day of Atonement, right?
Yeah.
But the Torah says, besides that, l'tayar eschem. That's a higher level. What's higher than what? Than atonement. Well, Soloveitchik explains, the Gemara in Yuma speaks about two types of tshuva. Tshuva me'hava and tshuva me'yira.
So Kippur must be the feast.
Yom Kippur means, beautiful, if you do tshuva me'yira, then the sins are covered up. Kapara means covered up. You won't get punished. The sin is covered up. It still remains, but now it's covered up. You won't get. But there's a higher level. If you do tshuva me'ahava, then the sin actually becomes pure. You do tshuva me'ahava. How do you say that in English? Tshuva because you love God. Then the sin doesn't get covered up. The sin will get transported to what? To a mitzvah. The Jew has the awesome power to reinvent himself, to rejuvenate. People say the past is dead. Dr. Hackett, the past is not dead. A Jew can go back to the past and change it. He ate a cheeseburger 23 years ago. If he does tshuva mehava today, that cheeseburger that he ate becomes actually a mitzvah. It's mind-boggling.
It pointed to
right? If you do tshuva mehava, that's a very high level. So as Soloveitchik points out, Yechaper Aleichem, that's tshuva meyira. There's a higher level, tshuva mehava, because you love God, not for any ulterior motives, you're afraid you get punished, that's called tahara. So why is the day called Yom HaKippurim, not Yom Tahara?
Because most of us...
Beautiful, Chava. Because the Torah lives in the real world. Most of us cannot get to the Yom Tahara. It's very difficult to do tshuva only because you love God. So God said, Oichet good, Yom HaKippurim. If you do tshuva me'ira, I'll accept that also. Don't shoot for the moon. God lives in the real world. It's called Yom HaKippurim, not Yom Tahara. Because the vast majority of us cannot do Tahara. It's very high level. Hopefully someday we'll get there, but just do tshuva. Anyway, for any reason, just do tshuva. Even if for the wrong reasons. How do we know that? How do we know that? You do tshuva even for the wrong reasons, it's also good. The Torah says, V'skadishtem yitem kedoshim. You shall be holy, and you shall be holy. Seems to be redundant. V'skadishtem, you shall be holy, v'yitem kedoshim. Isn't that redundant? Be holy, you shall be holy. Why is it repeated? Fake it till you make it.
act as though you're holy, and then you will
Beautiful,
really
Chava. You want to come up here? Fake it till you make it. It's kadishtem hitem kedoshim. The Talmud says in Taanis, page 7, a person should always do Torah mitzvahs afilu shelo lishma, even if he doesn't mean it. Shematoch shelo lishma ba lishma. Maybe Nike, just do it. If you act holy and make believe you're holy, eventually you will become holy. That's the beauty of Judaism. Just do it. Even if you do it for the wrong reasons, you don't mean it, just do the mitzvot, because eventually, if you do it enough times, then what, Abraham? Then you will mean it. B'toch shelo lishma, ba lishma. What does that mean? Even if you don't do it for her sake, who's the her? The Shekhinah, her, Shekhinah, God is feminine. Shekhinah, eventually God promises you'll graduate, and you do it lishma. So kapara is also good. Yom HaKippurim. Just do it. That's the beauty of Judaism, yes? What?
If you don't do tshuva, Hashem will still forgive you. And Yom Kippur doesn't mechaper.
Oh, now Zisel opened up, what they call Pandora's box? Who was Pandora anyway?
Some Greek lady.
Now, Zisel has a whole new topic. Baruch Hashem, I'm prepared. I didn't know you were going to ask me this.
No, it's related to what he said.
I know. Okay, now hear this. Does Yom Kippur atone even without tshuva? There's a machlokes in the Mishnah and Yuma between Rebbe and the Chachamim. Rebbe says, David, you sleep all day Yom Kippur. You sleep all day Yom Kippur. You don't eat. You don't daven, but you don't eat. You sleep all day Yom Kippur. You've got kapara. Chachamim say, forget about it. Yom Kippur will only help if what? You do tshuva. Now the Rambam rules like the Chachamim. Unfortunately, that Yom Kippur will not atone unless what?
Unless you
Do
do tshuva.
tshuva. But what about the Yehuda Nasi? What are my chopped liver rolls? The Yehuda Nasi, who wrote the Mishnah? Yehuda Nasi. After 120 years, we want to see Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Where is he? He says, you go through 80, 90 years of Yom Kippur, 80 times Yom Kippur, you lived 100 years, you go through 80, 100 Yom Kippurs, automatically you get tshuva. Even without, you get Yom Kippur, you get kapara even without tshuva. So after 120, Mickey, we want to see Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, even though the halacha doesn't follow him. But wait a minute. We know, Connie, when two superstars disagree,
You're not better than
what? So how could the Chachamim be right that Yom Kippur does not help unless you what?
Do tshuva.
How could Rebbe be right that Yom Kippur helps even?
If you don't do tshuva?
Beautiful. Good thing you came today, Masha.
I know.
So the Meshech Chochma, you heard of him, Meir Simcha Cohen, Zisel. I'm glad you asked. He's going to make up shara how Rebbe is right and the Chachamim. You know, we have a dual role in Judaism. You ever wonder why there's a Shliach Tzibur? I know how to daven myself. A Jew has a dual role, Connie, as a Yochid and as part of the Tzibur. Shliach Tzibur. You daven Shemon Esrei, then the Shliach of the Tzibur repeats it. Why? I daven myself, Shelley. Why you have a Shliach Tzibur? So the Meshech Chochma explains, Dr. Hackett, that a Jew has this dual role. I'm an individual, no one can do it my way, and yet I'm part of the Tzibur. So therefore, Yosef, I have to daven Shemon Esrei on my own, because no one can do it my way, but then the Shliach of the Tzibur, I also have part of the Tzibur. So Meshech Chochma says, Rebbe is right and the Chachamim are right. When Rebbe says Yom Kippur helps even without tshuva, he's talking to Tzibur. Klal Yisrael as a klal must get Kapar Yom Kippur regardless of tshuva or not. Otherwise the nation couldn't exist. The nation of Israel, the tzibur, how do you say tzibur in English?
Congregation.
The congregation as a whole must get kapara every Yom Kippur regardless of tshuva or not. Otherwise, how could the nation survive till next year? That's your Rebbe. The Chachamim, when they say that what, Rose? That tshuva, Yom Kippur only helps what?
When you do tshuva.
That's the individual. I have this dual role in Judaism. So you go through Yom Kippur, you don't do tshuva, as part of the nation, you get kapara. But you individual, when you stand in front of God after 120, God will say, you did not do tshuva. You want to kapara on me? You're not just part of the tzibur, you're an individual, and no one can do it your way. God said, you let me down, you let yourself down. Isn't that beautiful? See, so how Rebbe is right, and the Chachamim are right. I'm glad you asked me that question. Tzibur gets kapara regardless, but I'm also an individual. And there I will not get kapara unless I do tshuva on Yom Kippur.
What if a person wants to do tshuva and they want to, because as I understand it, in order to have get tshuva, to do tshuva, you have to ask forgiveness for somebody you've wronged.
Right.
Okay? So what if that person doesn't want to forgive you?
So now, another question. Yom Kippur only helps sins ben adam lamakim, right? Sins between man and man, the Mishnah Yuma says Yom Kippur doesn't help unless what? You apologize to the guy that you wronged.
And he accepts it.
And he accepts it. It's much easier. God is much more forgiving than any human being. Right? So Yom Kippur, the Mishnah Yuma says Yom Kippur will not help at 100 shuvas, only sins between man and God. Sins between man and man, Yom Kippur will not help, and tshuva will not help unless the other guy what? Forgives you. What if he won't forgive you? For doing what? For stealing from him. What good is forgive? If you don't pay him back, why should he forgive you? Right? If you swindle somebody or you ruin his reputation, what do you mean? Why should he forgive you if you don't do right? Pay back. Give him back his reputation. Give him back the money that you swindled, and then maybe he'll forgive you. But why should he forgive you if you don't do right by him, which is more difficult than by God? So sins between man and man, that's very, very difficult. Yom Kippur will not atone for that unless you do right by the guy that you wronged. So you stole from him, you have to pay him back. But he still has to forgive you. If he doesn't, after 3 times, you don't have to ask him anymore.
Why is it after 3 times?
Really?
The Rambam says after 3 times, once you do right by him, you pay back what you wronged him, you apologize, and you give him back his reputation. I don't know how you do that after you slandered him. Then after 3 times, if he still refuses, you don't have to ask him anymore. You did your best. But only God knows if you did your best. And giving him back what you stole from him, what you took from him, right? So again, it's much easier to win forgiveness from God than from what?
Man.
From a man. Much easier. Go ahead.
And if you didn't get the opportunity one his mother to get Mechila from him while he was alive, then you have to go to his
You go to the cemetery and ask Mechila
with a minion.
and you pay back the widow and the orphans that you swindled him. Right? You have to pay back the widow and the orphans that you swindled him, and you have to go to the cemetery and you apologize to the person. You take 10 people.
Why don't you give a check?
Why? Checks around. Checks, So, then the next parsha, Kedoshim Tiyu. You shall be holy. God says, be holy, because what? I, God, am holy. Wow. Be holy. Now, how are you holy? By being a monk locked up in a monastery, you set yourself off from people? No. Yosef, look at the parsha. All of the laws here, ben adam chavero. To attain holiness, you have to interact with your fellow human being, to be kind to him, to show him chesed, to do favors. A Jew is holy not by shutting himself off from society, but by sanctifying even the mundane. My Kedusha is found by helping another Jew. When I help another Jew with a mundane act, right, help him change the tire, or help him change a flat, if I can do that, I'm getting Kedusha, even though I'm getting full of grease. I'm getting Kedusha. By helping another Jew, That's the way to attain Kedusha. Isn't that amazing? Kedoshim tiyu. Be holy. And more than that, according to Kabbalah, how do you be holy? How did God create the world, Chava? According to the Zohar, the whole universe is God. How could anything exist? How could there be an atom, let alone a human being? God is everything. God is everywhere. How is there room for anything else? So the Zohar speaks about, the Ari HaKadosh speaks about Tzimtzum. God, Kaviyachol, what did he do? He retracted or restricted or constricted himself. Therefore it's called outer space. Give me space. Give me space. God made space for us by Kaviyachol limiting himself, by pulling into himself, by constricting himself. He made room for us. So Kedoshim tiyu kekodesh ani. God says, just like I made space for you to exist, make room for somebody else. David, a person shouldn't just think about himself. Make room for others. God made room for us by limiting himself. A person has to limit himself. Pull back and give someone else a chance to shine. Give someone else a chance, Zisel, to share the spotlight. Kedoshim tiyu kekodesh ani. I made room for you. God gave up a part of himself to make space for us. We have to give a part of ourselves, whether it's money, time, energy, give it up for somebody else. And if we do that, we are imitating the boss. Kedoshim tiyu kekodesh ani. Every time you do an act of kindness for others, by giving up of yourself, whether it's time, money, or energy, who are you imitating, Yosef? Who are you imitating? Hashem. Kedoshim tiyu kekodesh ani. Not by chanting a Tillim all day locked up in a room. You say Tillim, but not all day. You've got to interact and help people. That's how a person attains Kedusha. By reach out and touch somebody else. Reach out and touch someone. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Now we get to the most misunderstood verse in the entire Torah. If you read the English in Art Scroll, Leviticus 19:18 says, you shall love your friend like yourself. Leviticus 19, verse 18. You shall love your friend like yourself. That's what Art Scroll says. It's just impossible. Mash, anybody like that?
I know my friend.
You know anybody like that? The biggest Rebbe in the world. Can you love your friend like yourself? That means next time I buy myself a suit, I have to buy a suit for my friend. Next time I go on vacation, I got to take my friend along. Next time I go on a cruise, I got to take my friend along. Does it make any sense? How could you know, anybody in their right mind, Avram, that loves his friend like himself? It's humanly impossible, Rabbi Yaakov. Unlike other religions, which are just what? Bubamaisis, slogans, pie in the sky. Judaism, Mickey's not a religion. It's a way of life. So Rav Soloveitchik asked, how could God demand something which is against human nature? He's the one who created human nature. It's impossible to love someone as themselves. And I'll prove it to you. Gemara Bava Metzia 62. Two people are lost in the desert. I have a canteen of water and the other guy doesn't. If we share it, we're both not going to make it. If I drink it, I'll live and the friend will die. What's the halacha, Yehuda? Chayecha koydem chayecha vercha. The halacha is that what? I have to drink it and live. Hello? If I have to love my friend like myself, I should share the water with him. But that's not the halacha. If I share the water of him, I commit suicide. I'm not allowed to do that, Yosef. The Torah teaches my life comes first. So therefore, this pasuk is terribly mistranslated. You gotta know, Rav Soloveitchik says, you gotta know where to put the commas. I'll give you an example.
This is with two Jews.
Two Jews.
Two Jews, and one has water, one doesn't.
Right.
And
But Metzia, page 62. Chayecha koibel chayecha vercha. The halacha is, it's my water, I must drink it. I'm not allowed to share it if it'll kill me. If it won't kill me, of course I have to share it. But I know if I share it, it'll kill me. I'm not allowed to share it. Because my life comes first. What about love your friend as yourself? It never says love your friend as yourself. You've got to know where to put the commas. I'll prove it to Yosef. We had a grandfather live with us. So one day I knocked on his door with a knife and fork in my hand. And I said, "Let's eat, Grandpa." He jumped out the window. It's a good thing we lived on the ground floor. Ground floor we lived.
Very good.
Good thing, right?
Yes.
Then I tried again. I was about 9 years old. I knocked on the door. Knife and fork. I said, "Let's eat, Grandpa." He said, "Now you're talking, Sonny. What's for dinner?" Macaroni and cheese. If you don't know where to put the commas, Mendel, you can eat your grandpa. It doesn't say love your friend as yourself. It can't say that. Why?
Impossible.
It's impossible. What does it say? Love your friend. Kamoicha ani Hashem. Love your fellow Jew, comma, kamocha. Not like yourself. Love your fellow Jew, kamocha, because he's just like you. What do you mean he's just like me? He doesn't look like me, doesn't act like me, doesn't smell like me.
But he's a human.
Ani Hashem. What does Ani Hashem rose got to do with it? I know Ani Hashem. Why does the pasuk end, Shelley? Love your friend, I am God. Well, thank you very much. I know you're God. What does God got to do with loving your friend? The way Rav Soloveitchik punctuates. Love your friend, comma, not like yourself. Kamocha means love your friend. Kamocha because he's just like you. What do you mean he's just like me? Ani Hashem. Ani Hashem. What's Ani Hashem got to do with it? We all have a godly soul. God says you're all part of me. Don't love him like yourself. I can't say that. Love him because he's just like you. What do you mean just like me? Ani Hashem. We all have a tzelem Elohim. We all have a chedek Elohai mimal. Therefore you have to love him. Not like yourself, doesn't say that. You have to love him because he's just like you. He's also tzelem Elohim. He's also, how do you say chedek Elohai mimal? He's also a portion of God. Therefore you have to love him. So if you don't know where to put the psukim, Mashi get all mixed up. People read the art scroll, they think, is God serious? Is the Torah serious? How could the Torah command something which is not possible? The answer is it doesn't. You have to know where to put the commas, otherwise you'll eat your grandpa. You don't want to do that. Right, Yosef? You had a question, I think.
yes, I did.
Fire away, I'm all ears.
You have your canteen of water. You have your son or daughter or your wife with you. You want to give it up to them.
Okay.
Is that committing suicide?
That community, Dr. Hackett, remember your father, Yochanan ben Eliyahu. What? The halacha is, it's not my life to give up.
Or for your child? I would never hesitate to do that.
Okay.
So am I committing suicide?
You're asking a very, very, very difficult question. A very difficult question.
You know, I'm the oldest, and I figure give them life because they need life and to carry.
Are you allowed to commit suicide to save somebody else? The law is no.
What about a person who goes to war and jumps on?
Oh, so now, I'm telling you, you guys are great. Now you guys are great.
He jumps on a
You asked the Minchas Chinuch's question. The Minchas Chinuch, Rav Yaakov Babad in 1837, he asked you a question. We know the greatest mitzvah in the Torah is what? Staying alive, staying alive. You're not allowed to give up your life for anybody else. Chayecho koidmen. The Torah says your life comes first. So the Minchas Chinuch asked Yosef Meo's question, how could there be a mitzvah to go to war? When you go to war, you're giving up your life to save others. Major Roy Klein. So Klein Lavracha, he jumped on a grenade to save his platoon. So how could there be a mitzvah to go to war? When you go to war, it's all about giving up your life to save somebody else. So the Minchas Chinuch explains during war, Connie said, is different. If you're wearing a uniform, an IDF soldier, you're in a war situation, that's Yotze ben HaKlal. How do you say in English, Yotze ben HaKlal? Exception to the rule. When you're in war defending the nation of Israel, in the land of Israel, then if you're a soldier, then you're obligated to give up your life to save others. Otherwise, there couldn't be a concept of Mechemet Mitzvah. How do you say Mechemet Mitzvah in Hebrew? Holy war.
Holy war.
But if you're not a soldier in the IDF, and it's not a war situation, you're a civilian, then you're not allowed to give up your life to save others. Because it's not your life to give. Hashem is the one that gives life, and only He can decide when to take it or not. So if it's not a war situation, Yosef, and you're not a chayal, you're not wearing uniform, you're not allowed to give up your life to save somebody else. Otherwise, it's called committing suicide.
So I hate to do this to you.
Right.
And I know this can happen, God forbid. So you see, let's say if I see a bunch of kids, Jewish kids, and some crazy nugget goes out and throws a hand grenade in the middle of it, and I jump on it, I'm killing myself, committing suicide. I'm saving those kids.
Right.
Is that committing suicide by saving children, Jewish children? I don't understand it. It's like the Holocaust, you know?
You're asking a very difficult question. Is it a war situation? Are you a chayal?
No, but terrorism is a war. It's like an
Okay.
It's a war against civilians.
If it's a war, then you're allowed to do it. But if it's not a war situation, then you're not allowed to do it. And there's an amazing pasuk. I'm going off track, but since you asked me this question, keep in mind, Yosef, that there are no extra words in the Torah. Okay? When you get home, please look up this verse in Parshas Vayigash. In Parshas Vayigash. Now remember, the Torah doesn't tell me any stories, right? The Torah only is GPS. If you look at Genesis 43, Yosef, Genesis 43:8. Genesis 43:8, background music. Yaakov's family is running out of food. There's a famine in Canaan. Remember?
Yes.
And Yosef, Tutankhamun says, you can't come back to me to buy food unless you what? Bring Benjamin. Right? And Yaakov didn't want to do that. Genesis 43:8. Yehuda says to his father, send the boy with me, and we will live and not die. Us, you, and our children. It seems to be redundant. I need to know what Yehuda said to his dad 3,800 years ago. He could have said, send the boy with me, we'll buy food so we'll live and not die. What does he have to add, Yehuda? Gam anachnu. We will live and not die. Us, you, and our children. It seems to be redundant. Just say, send the boy with me, Tutankhamun will sell us food, otherwise we'll die. We know everybody, the whole family. Why have to single out, we won't die, we won't, you and our children? Yura. Gam anachnu gamata. It proves what I just said. Lo yaleinu, if a person is in a situation where he doesn't have enough food, he has food. He has to eat it first. Gam anachnu. Then ata. If it's my food, anachnu comes before the other guy. Even if the other guy is your relative. It says gam anachnu gam ata gam tapenu. We, you, Abba, and our children. So the halacha learns from here that a person is obligated to save his life first even before his parents and his children. Genesis 43, verse 8. Look at that pasuk. Keep in mind that Tanakh is not a dialogue. You learn halachos. Why Yehuda has to say, we will live and not die, anachnu we, then you, then our children. We should never come to that situation, but this is what the Torah teaches, that person's life is not his to give away when he feels like it. It's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu's life. Unless you're in a war situation, a person is not permitted to give up his own life. Anyway, what?
Let's stay with it a second. Roger's
Yeah.
coming out of your burning house, your children in the house.
Right.
It's dangerous to go back in, but if you don't go back in, the children are going to die. Don't you have a responsibility to try to save your children?
Well, you're not allowed to commit suicide. If there's a chance you'll survive, of course you have to take the chance.
No, you don't know.
Right?
Of course you don't know.
But you're supposed to take that chance. Right? You're supposed to take that chance. To commit certain suicide, you're not allowed to do. But if there's a small chance that you can save somebody, then you're obligated to risk your life to save others. You just can't commit suicide. Like jumping on a grenade is committing suicide. But if there's a small chance that you could save someone, even though you're risking your life, then you're obligated to do it if it's not 100% suicide. What? Don't stand by the blood of your brother. Right? You're supposed to risk your life to save others. But David, before you go, can I just ask you this question? David, a guy is drowning and you can't swim. And he's drowning. Are you allowed to go after him? Why? Why not? That's suicide. If you know how to swim, you're obligated to go after him. But if you don't know how to swim, you're not allowed to go. Because you're committing suicide.
What if you're
What?
What if you're in the desert with one bottle of water?
Right.
It's one of your parents, you and your parents.
We just said, Connie, we just learned that even your life comes before your parents. Gam anachnu. Yehuda says to his father, we won't starve, we'll live, anachnu. Then he says, ata. Anachnu. And then he says, ata, and then you. So, lo yaleinu, in such a situation, a person has to what? Chayecha koidmin. Very difficult. Very difficult, right? But we don't make the rules. God is the one that makes the rules, right? Then the Torah says, do not, lo yitelech rochel be'amecha, do not be a talebearer against your people. Don't stand by the blood of your friend. Why is that in the same verse, Roger? Don't be a talebearer and don't spill your friend's blood. Why is it in the same verse? When the two ideas in one verse, they have to be what? So the Talmud says, if you slander someone, you're spilling his blood. Killing me softly with words. Killing me softly. Killing me softly with words. Even in English, it's called Mindel character assassination, isn't it? So when you destroy someone's reputation, you are spilling his blood, and therefore the Torah puts it what? One verse. The Talmud says, Lashon Hara kills three people. It kills the speaker, it kills the listener, and kills the person being spoken about. Now, which sin is worse, Yosef? Idolatry or slander? You would ask me, I'd say idolatry. Maimonides says slander. Rose, what's the raya? Maimonides brings a raya. I say raya in English. Proof. For the sin of idolatry, how many Jews were killed? In the Midbar? 3,000. 3,000. The golden calf disco, only 3,000 Jews were killed. But for the sin of accepting the slander of the Meraglim, when they slandered Pisgat Zev. I mean, where do you live? Arba Netziv. Not 3,000 Jews were killed. How many, Masha? 600,000. So Maimonides says, you see, that slander is worse than idolatry. Idolatry, Egel, 3,000 Yidden died. For accepting the Meraglim slander on Eretz Yisrael, not 3,000, Yisrael Baruch, 600,000 died. And people are so, Lashon Hara. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Also during the sphere.
What?
Rabbi
Akiva students, where they were cruel to each other. They bad-mouthed each other. We're going to talk about that on Lag Bomer, right? They slandered each other, and they died of a plague. They died of a plague during these days of Sphira, and therefore we are what? We're mourning. But if they were Rishayim, why should I mourn for them? Roger, I'm confused. If they were Rishayim, why am I mourning for them? I don't think they did tshuva, otherwise they wouldn't have died. So why mourn for wicked people? You hear the question, Yehuda? That's a Lag Bomer talk. By the way, Lag Bomer is Thursday, not this Thursday. Next Thursday is Lag Bomer. So that'll be Lag Bomer talk. Why mourn if they were wicked? Why should we mourn for them? And how could Rabbi Akiva taught, love your fellow Jew. That was Klal Gadol b'Torah. Didn't they get the message? He was their Rebbe.
Well, weren't they?
Was Rabbi Akiva the greatest failure that ever lived? Zisla, you hear my question on the table? I'm being bold. He had 24,000 students. And what was his main model? Hello? Why would you teach your own students? Looks like he failed 24,000 times.
But they were also fighting against, at that time, Akiva thought that Baruch.
That's right. But so why was the failure, why was the rebellion a failure? Because they slandered each other. You're right, they died in the Bar Kokhba rebellion. But there's a cheshbon. Why was the rebellion not successful? Because they hated each other.
Oh, because
So the question is, why didn't Rabbi Akiva get their message? He said that's the greatest rule in the Torah, love your fellow Jew. Love your fellow Jew. He is just like you. Ani Hashem. We all have a piece of God in us. So that's called a cliffhanger. How do you say, Mickey, a cliffhanger? Next Thursday, please come, Masha. Not this Thursday. This Thursday we also have a class, but this Thursday we have a class. But Lag Bomer is next Thursday, and we'll talk about that. But now let's get back to the Parshat. This Parsha is always read on the Yom Ha'atzmaut, and it's just amazing they have Torah. That we read this Shabbos, your hair would stand up. If you were listening, Roger, to the Haftorah that we read, this is taken from the book of Amos, chapter 9. Now, when he said this Haftorah, no one knew what he's talking about. He says that we read this Shabbos. Keep in mind, this Haftorah Ziesel's always read the Shabbos of Yom Ha'atzmaut. Kawinky dinky. He says, I will bring back the captivity of my people Israel. When he said this, the people of Israel were not in captivity. The Beis Hamikdash was standing in all of his glory. You had the kingdom of Yehuda, the kingdom of Israel. What do you mean, I'll bring back the captivity of my people Israel? Prophet, take a pill and lie down. Rebuild desolate cities. Avram, when he said that the cities were not desolate. Samaria was bustling, the capital of the 10 tribes. Jerusalem was bustling, the capital of Yehuda. What do you mean rebuild desolate cities? And replant destroyed vineyards. The vineyards were not destroyed. And make beautiful gardens. And I will plant them on their land. Replant them. What do you mean replant them? They were in the land. I will replant them on their land, and never again will they be uprooted from the land, says Hashem your God. When he said this, it made no sense to them. They were not uprooted. The cities of Yehuda were not desolate. The vineyards were not destroyed. Everything was hunky-dory. So obviously he's speaking what, Dr. Hackett? Now, even though he said it 2,800 years ago. And every year, this Haftorah, Kawinky Dinky, is read during the what? Yom Ha'atzmaut. Yes, God did bring back the captivity of Israel. And we did rebuild desolate cities and planted beautiful gardens. Pisgat Zev, before 1967, looked like a moonscape. And since the IDF liberated, it's a beautiful vineyard, a Gan Eden. So when he said this, they didn't know what he's talking about. The Gemara Megillah said, Dr. Hackett, there were millions of prophets, millions. How come only 48 are recorded? Because those millions of prophets, Chava, they spoke what?
For the present.
I don't care.
The present.
They spoke for their time. I'm not interested. But the 48 Nevi'im in Tanakh, they didn't speak for their people. They spoke to us today. Amos chapter 9. Yes, God brought us back. The week of Yom Ha'atzmaut. Every year, this Haftorah, Masha coincidence is read the week of Yom Ha'atzmaut, when God did bring us back, and we rebuilt, destroyed desolate cities, and replanted beautiful gardens. We turned the desert into what? A Gan Eden. That process began Yom Ha'atzmaut. What a prophecy. What a prophecy. And before that, he says, I will raise up the Sukkahs David Hanafelet. The Sukkahs David, I will raise up the fallen Sukkah of David. He's speaking about our time. The first two temples were not called the Sukkah. The third temple is called Sukkah, King David's Sukkah. Amos chapter 9, Chava. On that day, I will raise up the fallen Sukkah of King David. The Maral says, why is the third temple called the Sukkah? Sukkah? Oh, good thing you came today. The first two temples were destroyed. The Sukkah in the Midbar, what did that represent, Yehuda? The Ananei HaKavod. That's eternal. It's indestructible, says the Maral. The first two temples were destroyed. They were man-made. But the third temple will be a sukkah. The sukkah in the desert, Zisel. What is that? The magic clouds of glory. Is that human-made? Is that destructible? The Ananei HaKavod are eternal and indestructible. So therefore, King David, Mashiach, the third temple is called sukkah, says the Maral, because the third temple will be like the sukkah in the desert, eternal and indestructible, the clouds of glory, unlike the first two temples which were destroyed. So this is a prophecy for our time. Amazing. We are living the prophecy. There are none so blind who will not see. Yes?
I heard this from a reliable source in the name of William Braun. William Braun said, when there are 600,000 Jews in the land of Israel, no power on earth will be able to get them.
That was 1948. There were 600,000 Jews here.
It was 600.
Right? And the Jews that left Egypt, 600,000?
Now we're 6 million.
Right? Now, Baruch Hashem, there's 6 million? Right? 6.6 million? Right?
8 million.
That's with the non-Jews, I think. What?
Oh,
But anyway, again, it's just amazing how the Parshat of the week, Zisel, always speaks of current events. I can't get over it. You don't need a Bible quote. This week's Parshat we read yesterday, God says, I'll give you the land flowing with milk and honey. This week's Parshat, milk and honey. What about oranges and avocados? Zisel, I'll tell you the truth. I like oranges and avocados much more than milk and honey. Why not praise Israel for the oranges and the avocados?
Right.
What am I, chopped liver? You got a fastening seatbelt for this.
Milk and honey is not, I don't think milk.
Why milk? What's wrong with avocados?
I don't think
So I had a Talmud of mine who from California. He said the avocados in California are much tastier than the avocados in Israel.
oh, really?
Therefore, God doesn't praise Israel with avocados. You might have tastier avocados in California. But milk and honey, you can Google this. The Israeli cow, you can Google this, gives more milk per cow than any cow on the face of the earth.
That's true.
The date palm tree in Israel gives more dates and more honey per tree than any date palm on the planet. Rose, just amazing. Uncle Google will tell you this, but how did God know this 330 years ago? He only praised Israel with land of milk and honey, not avocados, because the avocados, maybe California, they're tastier and more plentiful. But milk and honey, this is Uncle Google, I'm not making this up. The Israeli cow gives more milk per cow than any cow on the earth. The Israeli date palm tree, Yisrael Baruch, gives more dates, more honey per tree than any date palm on the face of the earth. How did God know that? Before Google. And this is the week of Yom Ha'atzmaut. You got to be blind, Avraham, not to see the Yad Hashem. Now a cow goes moo, but the Israeli cow goes no. Right, Avraham? Therefore, cholav advash, not oranges. Cholav advash. Look how the Torah is so true blue. Whatever God said 3,330 years ago is right in front of our eyes. What is happening here? We just have to appreciate and open our eyes to the miracle. Some people are just in denial, even though they're not Pharaoh. They're in denial.
They're in denial.
Nebuch.
They don't come home from Baruch.
Open up your eyes and appreciate the Yad Hashem, the great miracle that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing for us every day in this wonderful country. Do we appreciate it enough? Did we say Hallel Yom Ha'atzmaut? The least we can do is to praise Him for His goodness. Otherwise, why should He continue to give us? If we don't acknowledge His goodness, then why should He continue? Rabbi Yosef, I just can't understand some frum Jews that just can't see it. I just can't understand it. Shem should open up our eyes, remove the Cadillacs, not the Cadillacs, the spiritual cataracts. They just can't see. None so blind who will not see. They got spiritual cataracts.
Do you think that milk and honey is a metaphor for something even more bigger than what we see it as? Like a land of milk and honey?
I just told you, the Israeli cow and the Israeli date palm
I
tree.
know, but that, not by itself, milk and honey, but I'm talking about the holiness of the land, the greatness of the land, what it produces. And what it
Why dafka milk and honey? I gave you why.
But what
There's
about
no
the
other
things?
stuff that might be more plentiful in different countries, but the honey and the milk in this country per tree, per cow, is much more than any place on the face of the earth. So therefore God uses these metaphors only.
No, He uses other ones too.
No, only chalav advash. Don't confuse me. Chalav advash. Dozens of times it's only chalav advash. Only chalav advash.
How about the olives and the...
Yes, that's the seven species that Israel is famous for. But the praise of Eretz Yisrael is dafka chalav advash. Is dafka chalav advash. Because those are, you can't beat that per capita as the Israeli cow or the Israeli date palm tree. Wow. And Uncle Google says it's true. Hey Google.
At least he admits it.
What? He admits it. Pretty amazing. What? The Jews invent all this high tech, Waze, Wix. So all the Yiddish technology in this country, the startup nation, right? 3 years after Auschwitz, to come back. Nobody comes back after Auschwitz.
Right.
How many Jews were destroyed? 6 million, Yehuda? To come back and to rebuild this wonderful country? You know, Mechemet HaShichrur, they came here, the Jews didn't speak the language, didn't know how to use a rifle. They gave them a rifle, didn't know which end is up. Defeat 7 mighty Arab armies who had tanks, artillery, and jets. And we had World War I rifles, seltzer bottles, and sewer pipes. Unbelievable miracles. People stepped off from the boat from Auschwitz. They gave them a rifle. They didn't know which end is up. Didn't speak the language. 7 mighty Arab armies. You don't see the Yad Hashem? How could you not say Hallel? I just don't understand it.
There's a man in my synagogue, his name is Moshe. He was in World War II. He fought the Germans. He was wounded. He got the Silver Star. He came to Israel. He fought in 48. And I said to him, how long have you been here? He said, I've been here for about 60 years, give or take. And he said, Israel's always been in his heart. And he fought in 2 wars, the Big War and the Independence War. And he says, this is his land.
This is our land.
Our
Our
land.
land.
We have to acknowledge it. Thank you very much.